Hello, everybody. Welcome to Small Screen Live. I hope you guys are all doing very well. I'm coming to you from an undisclosed location. I've got a rather odd painting behind me, but don't pay attention to that. I hope you guys are doing very well. Hello to everyone watching. Hello to everyone in the chat. Yes, and the table I'm also using is very wobbly, so I'm sorry about that. But we've got Bobby in the chat saying hi everyone. Always a good day with Small Screen. We've got Small Screen and this bloody comment coming up all the time saying, "What did you guys think of the Book of Boba Fett episode 3? Let us know your thoughts in the comments." I don't know why that keeps on coming up on Facebook, but I can't get rid of it, so it's going to be a thing we're going to say every week. We've got Jedi Master EJ saying hello there. Hello, Jedi Master EJ. We've got Chrysler in the chat also saying strike 3 and you're out. I'm not sure what what that's all about. And Chrysler saying Edward on the lam. I'm on the run. that's what I'm doing. So we've got Sean with us tonight. We might have James come on later. I hope so. I'm not sure. And tonight we're going to be talking about the writer's strike and its potential effect on Hollywood. And there's no one better, I think, to talk about that than Sean, who is right here. How are you doing, Sean?
I'm here. I don't have a picket sign, but I'm here. Probably because I'm 2,400 miles away from the strike, and if I picketed here, people would just want to know, what do you have against chicken wings?
Yeah, and it's like you're not one of those the famous actors that seems to have kind of come out of the wings to kind of go, yes, I like the writers too, because they've realized without the writers, we are completely wordless, literally.
Yeah. I heard that a television actor got dropped off by their publicist in front of one of the pickets, managed to get hold of his sign, got a picture taken, handed the sign back, got in the car.
Who was that?
I don't know. I just heard it was someone that you would know.
Well, I did see a rather odd picture of Tom Ellis doing something a bit like that. It might be him. I don't know. But it does seem as though there are quite a lot coming out the wings and doing that sort of thing. But
the SAG contract's coming up. So WGA now, DGA soon, and then SAG right after that.
Yeah. So the writers. This is something that was kind of. A lot of people have been talking about this before it ended up happening. I think it started. Was it last week? The writers' strike started.
May 1st. Midnight May 1st.
Midnight May 1st, and it is a very big deal. It's the second time this has happened. Since I've been working as a journalist professionally. I think the first one was it 2008. The first writers' strike I remember, yeah. And basically, I wanted to know, we can go into the weeds a bit of why it happens, but I wanted to know from you, what do you think this writer's strike is actually going to change anything in Hollywood, or are we on the precipice of all writers being AI?
Well, that's a big question. It's two different things to me. I will say that I was on an elevator with the CFO of a Warner's division who once said, if we can just get rid of artists, we can make something out of this business, and then we can pay this guy. And he pointed at me more, and I bet he'd like that. And apparently, he had forgotten that he was paying me as a writer and a producer. So, but that has been a feeling around that there's got to be some way to manufacture this stuff without involving artists or people. And there are ways of doing it, but that doesn't mean it's any good. I mean, the problem with AI is that it's only going to regurgitate what's happened before, if it even does that well. And, people make jokes like, well, that's all that Hollywood's doing now. And well, that's really kind of all Hollywood's ever done.
Yeah.
So I think there is a certain class of executives who doesn't respect the creatives and thinks that they can just be replaced easily, and they think they're interchangeable. I mean, some of the stuff I've heard about sitcom writers, which I hadn't heard before, is that there are people who are full-time writers on very popular shows who are making $64,000 a year, and that's insane. That's not even a living wage in Los Angeles.
Yeah, that's one of the big things, is that the amount of money that these full-time staff writers are getting is really, really low, especially considering where they have to live, because a lot of them can't do the job remotely. They do have to be on site, and there's a lot of this also has to do with the streamers. Is what I was hearing is that the people are worried about that how people like Netflix and Amazon Prime and Apple, probably Apple TV Plus as well, but how they are approaching writers is they want them more to be freelancers rather than full-time staff writers,
Right.
which is one of the big problems at the moment.
Right. They want a gig economy. They want to turn it into Uber as opposed to staffs. Now, I'm of two minds about this, because I think many shows, especially television shows, have been overstaffed for a long time. But that doesn't mean that this is the way to change that. I mean,
yeah.
American television used to be 39 episodes a year, and you had a staff of one writer usually, and then you freelance some scripts out. That's the way it was in the 60s. In the 70s, things started to change.
Yeah.
But I don't think that a union action, the studio is not the person to tell you how many writers you need. The person to tell you how many writers you need is the showrunner.
Yeah. And that is actually a really good point, because now TV shows now, especially with streaming services, will be fewer episodes.
Mm-hmm.
So, you tend to, I think the average is probably about 10 episodes per season now, which means you don't need to have full-time writers on staff. But what you do need is that the writers be properly paid for their work and actually receive proper royalties for their work, which is one of the big problems with streaming services. Is that's not the case at the moment.
I have made, from the stuff I wrote in animation. Now, animation is a different union.
Yeah.
At the WGA doesn't cover a lot of animation, but I have sometimes made as much as $50 in a decade in residuals from stuff I've written.
Residuals is the word, not royalties.
Yeah,
residuals,
but $50 in a decade, so that's roughly $5 a year in residuals. So, yeah,
and this is for working on pretty big shows as well.
Yeah. This is for working on shows that are in their 100th run.
Yeah.
So but going to cable originally cut residuals a good deal, and going to streamers has cut it more, because I think that's one of the reasons why Netflix sort of hides how many people are watching things. Yeah,
because this is also, it's not just Netflix, it's all of them. Like, Netflix is the one that is the streamer that is very famous for doing this, but Prime Video doesn't release their numbers either, and neither does Disney Plus, unless they're good numbers. So you don't, and that information on cable TV was public information. We're really entering now. It's like, and I think I remember them saying that the amount of money, because they've been negotiating. The Writers Guild of America has been negotiating with these streamers and these producers for months and months about this, and then in the end, they said that they didn't. Like, they offered, I think what they wanted would amount to something like 400 million in total for all the writers, and the producers wouldn't even give them like a fraction of that money.
Right. And let's think about the CEOs of these companies. I think I read, now don't quote me on this, but this is a number I believe I read, is that the CEOs of the 6 big entertainment corporations collectively made $800 million last year.
Yeah,
and they're stinking up about 400 million spread over 11,000 people.
Yeah, which is ridiculous. Like, why? I think there were a bunch of names that were mentioned. One of the names is David Zaslav, who of course is the CEO of Warner Brothers Discovery,
the most popular man in Hollywood right now.
Yeah, but his salary is bonkers. Like, the amount of money that he's made, I think it's close to 22 million. I think he's made, and in 1 year, that's his salary. So we're not. I don't think we're putting bonuses on top of that and stuff.
Or
like
stock
that.
options. Stock options. Because I used to get paid partially in stock options, which was hilarious.
I mean, if it does well, it's not a bad way to be paid, I suppose. But,
well, when AOL bought us, I saw my net worth dip considerably.
Yeah, and then of course, I mean, the other ones were Bob Iger, CEO of Disney, back as the CEO of Disney, and their salaries and the amounts they make is just nuts. And it's like, I remember talking to you about this before, about how movies are made and how much money is put into these movies, and where does that money go? And you brought up the example of the Towering Inferno, which I thought was a really good example. It's like I think you say it much better than me. I can't remember the exact numbers.
The Towering Inferno cost $15 million in 75, I think. And that was with the two biggest stars, like almost two of the biggest stars in the history of Hollywood. My joke is that it's like having Tom Cruise and Tom Cruise in a movie. And it cost $15 million. It was so much money, no studio would do it by itself. And if you adjust that for inflation, it's somewhere, I think, around $65 million today.
Yeah.
So why do all these movies cost over 100 or 200? I mean, what was the two Avengers movies was almost 500 between Endgame.
And then I think Avatar: The Way of Water ended up being the most expensive movie ever made. I think was it in the 200? It was past the. I can't remember how much it was to make in the end, but it's just it's numbers that really shouldn't be a thing. I need to look it up. Avatar: The Way of Water,
and that's with CGI, which was supposed to make things cheaper. I mean, Towering Inferno, to shoot that, you had to set a fucking building on fire.
Okay, so 250 million was the budget for that film, and that's just the budget.
Yeah.
And it's like a lot of this money is not going to writers. It's not going to the people that actually are making the movie. It's going to people at the very top. And I think this is capitalism in a nutshell as well. It's my problem with everything, is that there's no distribution of wealth.
Right.
Why should a writer who has written and helped to write something that has been made, why should they be paid so little? And it's been happening for so long now. It's like they think they're disposable. It's like Hollywood thinks writers are disposable. And now that AI and ChatGPT has come into the mix, it's made things very complicated, because of course Hollywood producers are starting to think, well, we can get rid of that cost. And me running my own media outlet, is that you do understand why people will be thinking that way.
Sure.
Because you can go. Of course, I said this last time, I've been playing around with ChatGPT and seeing what it comes up with. It's not bad, but it's also not very good, and it's very inaccurate.
Right. Right.
It gets everything mixed up, and I think it was a friend of mine was doing tests on trying to write screenplays through ChatGPT, and basically it was just remaking the Meg every time. And,
which, if you're going to remake something, you should remake something that was crap and make it better.
Yeah, Meg 2 looks a lot better. If you've seen the trailer for that looks very interesting. I think that was written by a person.
I just want Jason. Was based on a series of novels.
Yes, but incredibly.
I just want someone to go up to Jason Statham and say, "You don't need a big payday every movie. You're a really good actor." I watched Mean Machine a couple of weeks ago, and he's got a small part in it, and he almost steals it just by his presence. Yeah. You're a pretty good actor, and you could really just do other things once in a while, not all the time, but just once in a while.
Once in a while. Let's see. I have high hopes for the Meg 2, or Meg 2: The Trench, it's called, mainly because of its director. It's directed by Ben Wheatley.
Oh, okay.
Ben Wheatley did some, like, Field in England is a really good movie of his. He did one of the scariest films I've ever seen, and I'm blanking on the name now. My brother loves it. Where I need to look it up. He is a very interesting director, and it kind of blew my mind when they said Ben Wheatley is going to be making Kill List. Kill List was the movie I was thinking.
Oh, okay.
High Rise.
Okay.
And then he did Free Fire and Rebecca in 2020, which wasn't great, but then somehow they managed to get him to direct Meg 2: The Trench, which is interesting. But basically, going back to the writers' strike, what we've seen is that a lot of movies have been put on hold now because of this, which is of course what happened back in 2008. So the Blades Marvel movie's been put on hold. A bunch of other TV shows have been they've been postponed, the production of them. I was wondering if what you thought, like, will anything good come out of this strike for the writers? and for Hollywood.
It's either going to be something good for the writers or it's going to kill the union. I think that's the only ways it can go. I don't think the center will not hold. You can't stay where you are right now. That's in my opinion. But it's gotta if things stay the way they are now, we're just going to get more Book of Boba Fett episode 3.
God.
No, but it has to change, because you can't have people cannot live in Los Angeles and survive on $64,000 a year. I mean, you can, but you're gonna live like a college student in your first apartment, with 12 roommates. So it's something's got to change, and there's so much wrong with the industry. This is going to be just one way to do it. My fear is that the producers and studios might use this as a way to try and break the unions.
Well, I was wondering about that. I was wondering whether this was a ploy a bit from their end to basically, they say they negotiated. They didn't really negotiate, and and the producers knew that hoped that if they took them to this point, it would end up breaking the union.
Right.
I wouldn't be surprised if that was the strategy. If that was, someone did mention that we could do this. This could be something that might happen, because that union is a pretty strong one.
I don't know how strong it is, but it's tight, and
it's
people
vocal.
Yeah, and people don't. They're shutting things down now, so it is pretty strong.
Yeah.
Now, if the DGA's contract is coming up and SAG's contract is coming up, if the three of them band together, it's going to be unstoppable. If one breaks, it's going to be different. But I mean, there's so many issues with this. I feel, down to the fact that what used to be a town that had 12 major corporations now has 6, and that's shrinking. They're looking at, and this may sound silly, but they are looking at what Starbucks is doing with unions to avoid them, and thinking maybe that's not a bad idea.
Well, all companies in America love to do this. They love to talk, like Amazon, for instance, loves to put out videos basically telling people how unions are bad and will stop you progressing within the company. And it's a very, I live in France, which is the home of the union. So I have a soft spot for unions, and I think they work. I think they're a great thing. But then again, people might think they slow things down or they stop progress. I don't think that's true. I think they just get people paid.
Yeah.
Which is what they're there to do. I'm part of the National Union of Journalists, and not only does it get me into museums for free, which is good. It also gives me. It's good to be part of something that's trying, even though journalists are paid pretty badly on the whole. And again, I'm part of I'm a writer. I'm a journalist. AI is also coming for my job.
Yeah.
It's worrying. But sometimes what I do wonder. I'm an optimist, so I am hoping that this writer's strike might actually get people to realize how much money is actually being spent or being given to producers at the very top, which is why these budgets are so huge. And then we could see the reemergence, hopefully, of the mid-budget movie,
right?
Which I think is where the more interesting movies tend to get made anyway. And if you look at movies that were released in the past, we used to get some really fascinating films pretty much all the time.
Yep.
And that's kind of been put aside for big budget blockbusters, sequels, reboots. We're in the age of the reboot and the sequel, and I'm hoping that this writer's strike might break that.
Well, it's kind of always been the age of the reboot and the sequel. I mean, people forget that Humphrey Bogart's Maltese Falcon was the third time that movie had been made in 6 years. So
that is true. And The Fly is a reboot of a reboot, or a remake of a remake.
Yeah,
and the Thing is a remake of a remake.
But I would like to see the press stop covering, Robert Downey Jr. got $80 million check for Endgame or something like that. And, and let's talk about the guy who showed up for 2 meetings and they wrote him $1 million check. And there's 12 of those on the movie. And, Robert Downey Jr.'s value to that franchise was pretty apparent.
Yeah.
So pay him.
I mean, it's something that, yeah, without Robert Downey Jr., there probably wouldn't have been, the Marvel Cinematic Universe wouldn't have been where it is now.
Right.
Yeah, and I've noticed that a lot of people have been having a bit of a go at James Gunn about the writers' strike. I've been kind of out of the loop for a bit because personal matters, and I'm pretty sure I know that you have as well. But have you been hearing what people have been saying about James Gunn?
I've heard that
the writers' strike.
No, not in relation to the writer's strike. I think I heard that people think that the Superman Legacy script was rushed, and that he'll probably tweak it himself, strike or no strike.
Well, that's kind of it. It's that people have been accusing him of rushing the script so that he could get it done before the writer's strike started. But it's also there are certain individuals in Hollywood. James Gunn is one of them, writer director, but there are also actors that like to write their own movies. So Ryan Reynolds is one of those that is very much involved in the writing process. And then they end up taking massive paychecks for these movies, and the writers get the other writers will get very little,
right?
In comparison, is this something that do you think that might be a bit of a problem in Hollywood, or is it something that people are just talking about because they don't like James Gunn and Ryan Reynolds?
I think it's something people are talking about because they don't like James Gunn and Ryan Reynolds. I mean, if you're talking about people who are important to the creation of a project, they're central to it. I mean, a Ryan Reynolds movie is a brand at this point.
Yeah.
And I think he's very aware of that. And a James Gunn movie has also become a brand, and enough so that they put him in charge of a major operation at part of a studio. So those are people who are earning their checks and people who should be paid a lot. But what about like Akiva and people like that? I mean, they've become producers with a deal of their own, and the people who work for them need to be paid. They just need to be paid. You just need to pay people a living wage, or don't walk away with $100 million check at the end of the year. Samuel Goldwyn, excuse me, was not a part of Metro-Goldwyn-Mayer as people think. He was an independent producer with a releasing deal through a couple of things. And every time he made a movie, he made 1 or 2 movies a year, and he personally wrote the check out of his account to finance the movie. He was betting on that movie making money, and if the movie bombed, he lost money. If the movie was a success, he made a ton of money. Nobody does that anymore. They all go to banks, so they all find somebody else to finance it. He was literally self-financing movies he made,
and there are very few people that do that now.
Yeah,
the only ones that do that tend to be a bit mad. Yeah,
Tommy Wiseau.
Yeah. Yeah. And what's it? The Lord of the Dance guy. What's his name? Michael Flatley.
Oh, Flaherty.
Self-financed the movie that he wrote, starred in, and directed.
But God bless him for doing that. It's horrible, but he made what he wanted to make, and he put his money where his mouth is. He didn't go to banks. He didn't get a studio with 12 different producers. Yeah, I take it it's not very good.
It's not, but he won an award at the Monaco Film Festival that so no one's ever heard of before.
Yeah.
Best actor
from his good buddy Prince Albert.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, the production that I'd heard about that had been shut down temporarily was the Daredevil show. Because of the writers' strike. So it seems as though Marvel's actually shutting down a lot of stuff because of the writers' strike. So they're not turning to AI, although that's probably the first studio that people might say their movies are written by AI. Apparently not. Yeah.
I like the review of Guardians 3 I read. Like, this is a great movie, but it's not enough to save Phase 4.
Who wrote that?
I don't know. I saw that headline the other day.
I still haven't seen it yet because being out here in the sticks in France, they're all the only cinema that's showing it in French, and I really don't want to see the movie dubbed in French. It's not something that I'm into. Yeah, so that's a no from me.
Do you get? I want to ask this because I had relatives like this. When you watch something in English with French subtitles, does it start to make you a little crazy as to which one you're supposed to be following?
You see, this is the funny thing. I am so used to it now. It doesn't bother me. But what bothers me is when they get a mistake. It's like it's a clear mistake in the translation, and I'm like, he didn't say that, or she. It's like sometimes because I think I said that was a job that I was thinking of going into.
Right,
was
right.
it would have been French movies into English, so English subtitles, because you always have to translate into your mother tongue, unless you're incredible, which my wife probably is, so she could probably do it in all languages she speaks, but I could not. But like when you go into a movie and it's like, especially they get it's wrong in a lot of Marvel like superhero movies, that some of the translations are so bad. I'm thinking, how no wonder some people here aren't liking this movie. They have no idea what's going on.
Do you know there was a thing, it might be this, because there was a thing that happened with Batman Beyond, because they knew I lived in Canada for a while, and they called me up and they said, we've got a translation. We sent a translation to subtitles to Quebec, and they're furious with us. And I said, did you translate it into French, or did you translate it into Quebecois? And they went, what?
Yeah, it's too different. It's very different. Yeah, like that. Yeah, I can understand that. Like if you're translating into I think you do. I'm pretty sure you do have to have the difference. That there's even a difference in certain well, Spanish is like there are different languages in Spain. So Catalan and Basque, but like with Quebecois and French, it's very different. Yeah. I tried watching one of the very famous French Quebecois directors is Xavier Dolan, who is the wunderkind. Any film he makes and he sends it into Cannes, it wins something. But he directed a couple of years ago a film called Lawrence Anyways, and I had to turn it off because I did not understand a single thing that was being said. And I speak French fluently, but I do not speak Quebecois. It's practically a different language, and they have lots of slang that's like. It's kind of a lot of it I think is religion based. It's like a lot of their like tabarnak and
it's old. It's older French. The construction's older.
French, yeah.
Have you ever watched? Have you ever seen any of Eric Canuel films?
No, I haven't.
Did a great little thriller in 2004 or 2005 called Le Denier Tunnel, which is really good.
That sounds like it's right up my alley. I just watched the other day. I watched Boston Strangler, which is the movie on Disney Plus with Keira Knightley. Yeah, really good. I really enjoyed that film. I'm a sucker for thrillers and true crime, so it's right up my alley. That one was, but it's the reason I wanted to talk to you about the writer's strike is because it's an area that I'm not that familiar with personally, because I'm not a screenwriter, and even I had dreams to be one. Imagine that, dreaming to be on $65,000 a year in LA. But knowing that you had been in the industry and had a insight into all of that, I was interested to get your insight into what you thought this writer's strike actually meant for the future of Hollywood.
I have a lot on the line. I've got several projects that are completely stalled because
of this.
Yeah,
really.
Yeah, a couple as a producer and a couple of my own, and actually earlier before we got on, my manager called me and said, "Well, put your feet up and watch the soccer games because championship league's going, and that's about all we have to do now."
Yeah, this is the time of year I'm actually getting into football, because I'm a Liverpool fan, and we could possibly get fourth.
I was just told last week to just go ahead. You're a Liverpool fan. Just buy the fucking scarf and own it. Just go ahead and do it, Sean.
So, but it is Liverpool, right? It's not Manchester United that you follow, right?
No, I follow Liverpool. Yeah.
Okay, good. A good team to follow.
Yeah, Manchester United is like the Yankees. Like you just buy titles.
Oh yeah, well they used to. They used to have a very good manager, and they've been in the shit ever since Sir Alex Ferguson left.
I love that every football manager, they have to recruit them from countries where people talk with their hands, and at least twice during a game they'll cut to the sidelines and there'll be a guy standing there going, if he's French, he's doing this. If he's Italian, he's doing this.
Italian is this.
Yeah.
Is that? But no, the funniest one. There's an English manager who's now the manager of Everton. He used to be the manager of. I can't remember the team he used to manage, but he's very famous English manager called Sean Dyche, or Dyche, I think is how you say his name. And he's big guy, bald, but he's kind of got that kind of he's bald, but with a little bit of hair, and it's orange. So it's like a little. But he just stands there. He's a really big guy. Stands there the whole match, the whole 90 minutes, picking his nose the whole time. He does it all the time. He's just there picking his nose. And it's like the camera keeps on focusing on him. And it's like I was watching a match the other day with my dad because I went back I went to help my parents move. They moved back to the UK.
Right.
And one of the very first things my dad wanted to do was set up Sky TV because he wants to watch all the football games, even though he's a Manchester United fan, and they're not going to come fourth. I can tell you that, Dad. Liverpool will come. I'm a Liverpool fan. He's a Man United fan. But we were watching this game, Leicester versus Everton, and my dad was like, "Why do they keep on showing the manager? I cannot watch him pick his nose for another second. It's horrible." And I was just there laughing the whole time. It was hilarious.
Well, I almost busted a stitch when Jurgen Klopp started yelling at the other manager and then turned away and pulled his own fucking hamstring.
That was hilarious. That was the Tottenham game. That was an incredible game.
It was great. It was great.
It was so good. Like my dad was watching that. He's like, Liverpool are 3-0 up. I was like, what? And then it came back in. Liverpool is 3-3. I was like, what's going on? I hate supporting this team.
I texted my other friend who's a Liverpool supporter. He lives in Notting Hill, and I texted him, I have a heart condition. I cannot watch games like this.
Yeah, honestly, it's not. That might have been what caused your problem. Watching that game. Oh, God, that was horrible. Yeah, honestly, it's not. It's fun being a Liverpool fan, but it's not good for your hearts. I can tell you that.
Yeah.
Oh, God, honestly.
But
moving away from football.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm a newish football fan, so I get.
I'm a diehard football fan. I've been one for many years. And being an Englishman living in France, it's not easy. I can tell you that.
I think the studios are. I mean, I really wish somebody would get in there, and the way the accounting is set up is so nuts. And it doesn't have to be. It just doesn't have to be. You can make fuck tons of money without doing all this crazy shit you're doing, but nobody wants to do that.
Well, I keep on talking about this studio every time. I'm like, look at what Blumhouse does.
Yeah.
They're like, I'm pretty sure that Jason Blum makes a lot of money doing what he does, but I'm also pretty sure he takes a lot less money than some of these Hollywood executives do. Because they are specialized. They specialize in making small horror, like small budget horror movies, but not just horror. They're also branching out into thriller stuff and doing other stuff as well. But the movies they make so much money on such a small budget, and I'm pretty sure one of the reasons why they do that is because they minimize the amount of money that not only is spent on making the movie, but is also given to producers.
Right.
Like it must be that. There must be a clause there somewhere that it's like you only earn a certain amount. Like, because we know that we want these movies to succeed in the long run. We want the studio to succeed in the long run. It's the smart move to make. Like that. Yeah. That's the thing. If I was a producer of a company, I'd be like, I'll take my salary. Like, from this, if that's how they work, this is how I run my company. So I take my salary. And then any excess money that is made from the company goes back into the company.
Right.
So that means it'll go to pay salaries or improve things. It won't go into dividends or bonuses towards producers.
To the people who didn't do anything. That's
exactly what I was going to say.
I had a meeting once about. I was attached to the graphic novel Fade from Grace, Beckett Publication. Yes. I was attached to direct that as a movie at one point. And we went in and we had worked out a budget to do it for $1.5 million. And we went in for a meeting with a very well-known independent producer. and he loved the pitch. He loved my storyboards. He loved everything about it except the fact that he couldn't do it for $1.5 million because he doesn't produce a movie unless he's getting paid $1 million up front.
Why? Why are we talking about millions as if they're nothing? That's the other thing that makes it crazy to me. It's like Hollywood is a very odd place. It's like a very odd business structure as well. Nothing I've ever seen works the way Hollywood works.
Right.
And a very select number of people make a lot of money. And it's kind of, I wonder whether it's because of the way the Hollywood system started. But the fact of the matter is that there are very few studios now making these movies, and therefore very few people making money from these movies. Mm-hmm. And of course, they don't want that to stop because they like making money. But I'm like, after a certain number, does it matter anymore? It's like, does it matter if you have an extra zero? Really? It's like
Tom Hanks' quote. How much more steak can you eat?
Exactly. It's until you literally feel sick.
Yeah.
And this is why I'm probably too much of an eternal optimist. But I'm like, it can't get any worse. And I was thinking this strike could hopefully change the way the movie like Hollywood studios are run, because let's be honest, they're not making the best movies ever made.
Right.
They're spending the most money ever spent on these films. Right. But then these films that we're getting are not brilliant movies. They're not movies that people will be watching like 50 years from now. Even though people love Avatar: The Way of Water, the movie it's a bit shit. It's a very well made movie.
That means it's a little better than the first one.
Yeah. But it's a nice movie to look at. You'll have a good time at the cinema watching it, but it's not a film that people are going to. Although the place I'm staying in, they've got the first Avatar on DVD. So and that was one of the first things that the husband said to me. He's like, "We got Avatar on DVD, so if you want to sit down and watch it on the 500-inch screen we have on the wall, you can go and do that." And I was just like,
"Did you say I'm a British gentleman raised in France? I have no idea what an inch is."
Yes, well, yeah, that's one thing. That's why I'm like, well, it's how many inches? To me, it means nothing. It's a number that means absolutely nothing to me. But I think it's, I'm much more interested in sitting down and watching. Any movie that was made before I was born. so it's like I don't know. Maybe it's just me. Maybe I'm the problem. But I would like to see.
Yes, Edward, you are the entertainment industry problem. I'm sorry you weren't at the last entertainment industry meting where we all talked about that, but.
This Edward guy, he's very pretentious, and he wants his movies to be memorable. Like, I would not be able to tell you what happened in Avatar: The Way of Water. They swam. They swam.
This motherfucker wants a plot. I don't understand what we're going to do about that. He wants characterization that means something. What are we supposed to do about that?
You should type in ChatGPT, what is characterization? Explain to me characterization.
I think
go on.
Well, I think the way things will change, and I was talking about this earlier with someone earlier today, is if it goes on long enough that the stock prices continue to drop, because all the streaming services like CW reported a loss, what Apple's was less than expected. Disney's losing subscribers. They get a big bump when they have something new in there that people really want to watch, and then it tends to drop off. So, some people are thinking, well, Netflix and Disney and all these things, they can just keep repeating their old content. I don't think that's going to play that way. If it hits a certain thing and the stockholders start getting nervous and start seeing they have to change things, that's how it'll change. Or you'll have like a Moneyball situation where one visionary comes in like Jason Blum and runs a big studio, which might be like it might be James Gunn at DC, because he's talking about making mid-range budget movies, not trying to make the most expensive movie of all time.
And this is something that you hear a lot of negativity about someone like James Gunn being in control of DC. One of the things people says, he's never been in control of a studio. Well, to me, that's a good thing. It's like he's actually someone that's going to come in with fresh ideas,
right?
And like it's got to the point now where there's this huge stagnation in Hollywood, like really, really bad. Like they're literally going back to Tobey Maguire as Spider-Man, and we've got to a point now where it's like maybe we should work on actually making something different, something new, something that doesn't cost $250 million to make, and that's why James Gunn talking about a Swamp Thing movie, which is going to be relatively low budget compared to all the other DC movies that have been made, is exciting to me.
Yeah,
and talking about The Authority is exciting to me. Talking about making animated shows like that are interwoven with their live action content, that is exciting to me. And this is stuff that you don't really see anymore. And I really do think it's like we need these writers. We need to start paying them properly. And it's I think this is going to be. I'm hoping it's a landmark in the change, in a big change in Hollywood. You've just sent me ChatGPT's characterization.
So I asked ChatGPT, what is characterization in a screenplay? And its reply is, characterization in a screenplay refers to the way in which a character's personality, behavior, and thoughts and motivations are revealed to the audience or reader. It is the process of developing and portraying unique traits and qualities that make a character distinct and memorable. So it's a whole bunch of words shoved together that kind of mean something, but if you think about it for a second, yeah, not.
What does that mean?
Yeah.
The thoughts and motivations are revealed to the audience, so he's just sorry, I say he. It's describing plot.
Right.
It's not describing characterization.
It's not describing characterization in a movie, really, because it says there are several ways in which a character can be characterized in a screenplay, including through their dialogue, actions, reactions, physical appearance, and relationships with other characters. The writer can also use exposition, flashbacks, and inner monologues to provide additional insight into the character's backstory and motivation. So basically, what it's saying is that you can do what Shakespeare did when he had a stage the size of a postage stamp, no special effects, and maybe someone putting a tree out in front so you had to tell everybody everything.
That's insane. That's so bad. And this is what Hollywood execs want to write their movies and TV shows.
Yeah.
Oh dear. Well, that's what I say, but they haven't actually said that.
That's the thing. A lot of execs literally don't care if it's any good or not. And even the old time moguls like Jack Warner, who's not, and Louis B. Mayer, who aren't known as being great humanitarians, they wanted a good movie. That mattered. Because good movies made money. And you made a bunch of money making movies, and then a couple times a year you threw a bunch of money down the toilet to make something that meant something. And even those guys did that.
Yeah.
Can you imagine going in and pitching the best years of our lives? Now, a 3-hour-long movie about guys coming back from war and talking about it the whole time.
Yeah, no, it would never get greenlit. Yeah, it would. And it's I think it's a massive problem. It's that we're not greenlighting. Like I was just thinking, I don't think Thelma and Louise would get greenlit today.
Oh no, they'd have to live at the end.
Yeah, which to me is like I find that really weird, because I'm like, we are supposedly living in an era of we are all, let's use this phrase, awake. We are all, talking about progress and things. Yet when it comes to our movies, we were being more progressive in the 90s, 80s, and 70s than we are now.
We were being more progressive in the 50s.
Yeah, we were to a certain extent. Yeah, and It's like people are scared. It's like people are scared to do anything now that might rock the boat a bit.
Yeah.
And again, this is I actually think this is another reason why writers are striking. It's probably because, I mean, if I were a script writer, I'd be back and working for one of these studios or writing for one of these shows. I'd be banging my head against a brick wall because it must be incredibly dull.
Yeah,
you know, and you're being paid nothing to not to produce a lot
Crap.
of rubbish. Yeah.
Well, there are writers that I've known who actually think that some of the stuff is good. So, you know,
that might be a problem.
There are people who take the check and just do what's done, but there are writers who think that what they're doing is good. And look at the industry in other countries. Like India is the biggest film industry in the world, and I bet you it's not run this way. I know that the French and British industries aren't run this way, and nobody in the British film industry is getting super rich, but very few of them are wondering where their next meal's coming from.
Yeah, but also none of them are getting very rich.
No.
apart from Richard Curtis, probably.
and he's been at it for 40 years.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure, like, you know, is it Keith? No, what's his name? The really famous British director. Is it
Guy
Keith?
Ritchie?
Not Guy Ritchie. Guy Ritchie's he's not really an English filmmaker anymore. He's making movies in Hollywood.
The Gentleman was fairly British.
Yeah, I still want to watch Operation whatever it's called, Operation Fortune or Operation Nutcracker or something. I can't remember what it's called. It's got a stupid name. But it looks quite interesting. But what is the director I'm thinking of?
Are you thinking
Ken
of
Loach? Ken Loach.
Ken Loach.
Oh God, Ken Loach. Quite, you know, very very good British filmmaker. His movies are very depressing, but
oh yeah,
yeah.
He's also almost 90.
Yeah, he's old.
Yeah.
He's been working for a long time. But it's true. It's like, you know, a lot of industries, like these movie industries in different countries, are run very differently. It's not, you know, we're not talking about the amounts of money that they're spending in Hollywood. And like China would be an interesting one to see, because that's a booming market now for movies. They're making some big films now. And in India is what Bollywood is as well. And it'd be interesting to see how the money is distributed over there.
Yeah.
Because you know, that film RRR did really well overseas. That kind of Bollywood action movie. I still haven't watched it yet. Apparently, it's amazing. But it's. I think we've got to start looking at how can Hollywood and will Hollywood change? Because it needs to. And I don't know if it's going to, because people are making too much money from it.
Yeah. Rodney, we talked about that a little while ago. I think the unions all their contracts are coming up, I believe, this year. I know SAGs is coming up. I mean, DGA is coming up, I think, in July. And if they team up, they're going to be able to change some things. If one breaks ranks, it's going to be trouble.
Well, which one do you think would break rank?
They've all got a history of doing that at some point.
Yeah, I think it'd be SAG. If it's going to be any of them, because I know that you've got a lot of actors now, you know, with their little signs, you know, at the moment, but it seems a bit disingenuous to me, because they get paid. They still get paid a lot of money.
Yeah, they get paid less. Like the rank and file is going through the same thing that the WGA writers are going through. There used to be a few years ago, with the boom in basic cable production, people were making a lot of money, and then they realized, wait, there's a ton of these actors. If we don't get one, we'll get another. And they just,
that's true.
They cut people down from used to be when you started off, your base was SAG plus 10, so you get the base SAG salary plus 10% to pay your agent. Now you don't even get the plus 10 on some day player and weekly player jobs.
Yeah. That is true, actually. Yeah, there's a lot of actors out there, and a lot of out of work actors.
Yep.
So yeah, but it's one of the things I was wondering is, do you think Hollywood might want to start investing more in writer directors in a way to not have to pay writers?
I don't think so. I think that will scare them. I think that would scare the studios more, to tell you the truth.
Really?
Yeah, because then you've got
Well,
if you got all that power centered in one person, if you piss him off, he walks away with your movie. If you have a separate writer and separate director, you can play them off against each other to get
okay.
what you want out of it. Remember, a lot of executives think that what's being produced is good. They think the audience is dumb.
Yeah, well, this is why I'm always looking at that. What's it called? That not audience score. Is it
Q,
Cinescore?
Cinescore, Cinescore.
Cinescore, where
Yeah,
people are like, oh, it got a Cinescore, like an A Cinescore. I'm like,
yeah.
then I went to see a film. I was like, well, who are these people that gave this an A? It's like,
There's
it's
there's also
yeah.
the Q rating for actors.
I don't know that one.
Oh, that's how well people react positively or negatively, and the big one in the late '80s used to talk about is Jacques Cousteau had a Q rating of 92, and Jane Fonda had a Q rating of 25. So if you're going by that, you'd rather have Jacques Cousteau in your movie than Jane Fonda.
Yeah, well, I can tell you that I wouldn't. That's very odd. It's
It was
so
just
weird. It's like, who are these people that they're asking these questions to?
well, who's the person who wants to ask these questions? It's just like
Yeah.
who's the one that like, oh, we've got we got to get a spreadsheet to say how popular this actor is. No, you don't.
Yeah.
Look at the box office and look at if you don't know, then you need to go into another business. And that's part of the problem, is that there are a lot of people who are running the business who are MBAs and lawyers, and
Yes.
nothing against MBAs or lawyers, but they're not creative people, but they get in a position where they have the power of life and death over creatives.
And this was one of the problems that a lot of people are talking about during Bob Chapek's reign as Disney CEO.
Right.
Is it was kind of becoming a company even more run by accountants, lawyers, and
Right.
like marketing people.
Well, and the marketing's backwards now, because now it's like you have to decide if the idea is marketable before you make it, as opposed to you make it and then somebody decides how to market it. So, and I used to say that they run focus groups. So imagine in 1937, you're in a focus group and someone wants to tell you, we've got this property and it's about a baby who's rocketed from a dying planet. And when he gets to Earth, he's strong, he's invulnerable, and he can fly, and he fights crime. No, that's crazy. Who would want to see that? You don't know what's going to work with the audience until the audience sees it. And
Yes.
that's just a rule. You can't scientifically test your way out of that.
Which again is another it's a huge problem in Hollywood at the moment, is that everyone is worried about how an audience will react before an audience has seen something.
Right. And what Bobby says is right. Jane Fonda was Hanoi Jane at the time. She was also the top female box office star at the time. So, the Q ratings were a little weird. I mean, she had like hit after hit after hit in the 80s.
Yes, she did. She was great. Rodney has another question for you.
Yeah.
Do you think a fair compromise on the streaming stuff might be no more big upfront salaries to help offset the back end residuals the writers / producers / actors are wanting?
No, because they're not getting the residuals. That's the problem.
Yeah.
Residuals used to be a big payday, and that kind of ended with when Seinfeld and Frasier went into syndication. Those were sort of the last big paydays of those.
And it is something that they are asking for, is residuals from the shows they're working on, because most of them aren't. Well, none of them. They're not getting anything.
Right.
So they're literally just being paid a salary. And the way that these studios want it to go is that they literally just get paid a day rate,
right,
to come into work, and then they can get them to work fewer days, so they pay them less.
Right, and they're doing that with writers now too, like the Tonight Show and the Colbert Late Night shows. They're signing writers to 1-day contracts to come in and help with the monologue for that day.
Yeah,
and
then they're the ones that go off air and start saying that they support the writers' strike.
Right,
and it's like, yeah, but you're kind of the problem.
Right. And Rodney, I don't know if you heard earlier, but I've made 400 episodes of television, and so I made the joke about my last residual check I got was about 6 or 7 years ago, and it was for 5 years worth of residuals, and it was $250.
Oh God, that's it's just you can't continue. You can't carry on like that. Surely,
Yeah.
like it's you make something, you should have an investment in it. You should be able to get, you help to make a film or a TV show. You should be able to reap the rewards for the money it makes after it's aired.
Right.
Like it makes perfect sense to me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you should get paid. You shouldn't pay people who have a little bit to do with it. Like producers should have some skin in the game. That if this movie does well, I'll do well. If the movie doesn't do well, I don't do well. Instead of just, I've got a check for $1.5 million. I don't care if the movie does well or not because I got a check for $1.5 million.
It used to be that producers would give money to movies because they wanted to see it, to get it made, to see it. And I don't think there are any producers that do that anymore.
No,
they want it to do well, and that's it.
There's somebody, but I can't think of them. Oh, he just passed away. Ed Pressman used to do that.
Yeah, there were producers that did that, but they're a dying breed, and I'm pretty sure they're basically all died off now anyway.
Yeah.
I can't really think of anyone that does that will put up money for a movie to be made just because they want it to be made.
Right.
Apart from Michael Flatley. It's a running joke.
I'm gonna turn him into a hero by the end of this. Michael Flatley, the one man who puts his money where his mouth is in the movie industry, or puts his money where his clogs are, as the case may be.
The Lord of the Dance and the savior of the movie business. Yeah. Well, basically, all this has meant that the Blade movie's been delayed again. so there we go.
That thing is cursed, and it's a shame because I really want to see it.
That's a movie that's like it is literally cursed. It probably will be about a curse as well. Knowing Blade, they should probably just make it a movie about a curse. That'll be very meta. Yeah.
It's about a story that can't get started.
Yeah, it's like the movie just keeps on restarting every 20 minutes. There's a new actor to play Blade every time. That'd be fun. I'd watch that. So I think we've talked about that for about an hour, and it's been a very slow. Apart from the writers' strike, it's been a very slow week. Let's be honest. It's been the Alita Battle Angel 2 apparently is moving forward. There you go. Talk about sequels.
Yeah,
that one is being made by Disney. Zack Snyder had his Full Circle event.
I heard a little bit about that, but not much about it. Is he going to come over and he's going to take over Netflix and put all his Justice League stuff on there now?
Well, actually, this is the big news: is that yes, so Zack Snyder has managed to convince Warner Brothers to sell the Snyderverse to Netflix. This is all announced at the Full Circle, and no, I'm joking. None of that was announced. He was asked
April 1st. April 1st was a while ago.
It was a while back. I should have written that for April 1st. That would have been that would have done quite well, I think. But yeah, so he was asked about it during the event by a rather what's the word, rambunctious fan. I'm trying to think of a word that isn't moronic, but see what I did there? See what I didn't say that. I said I'm trying to think of a word that isn't that. You see, I'm like Donald Trump when it comes to this stuff.
By someone with some deep emotional scars.
Deep emotional scarring.
Their parents obviously didn't love them, so they turned to Zack Snyder. But that aside.
Yeah. Oh dear. But yeah, so they did that. He was asked about it's like, would you be interested in the Snyderverse being sold to a third party? It was a very interesting way of phrasing the question, and he gave a very non-answer. He was like, yeah, I would love to do more films. Who knows what's going to happen in the future? It's like he's, when I saw that, I was like, what else did you expect him to say? No, I never want to do another DC movie ever again. It's like, come on.
That would be the brave thing to say. But
It would.
I don't think it matters because I don't think he's, maybe in 20 years, it'll be a nostalgic thing. Let's bring Zack Snyder back to have some shit explode.
Let's bring Zack Snyder back to waste a lot of money. It's like,
a kryptonite spear wasn't a good idea. I think maybe like if you can just hit him over the head with a big rock, that'd be good.
With a kryptonite rock doused in kryptonite. There you go. That would be brilliant. But that happened, so we didn't get to cover that. But then again, we probably would have got into trouble covering it, like we're probably going to do now.
They're crazy on Twitter. They're absolutely crazy. At least it's got to be some kind of bot or some kind of somebody's got to be paying for this because like once a week it pops up.
The problem is once you start like clicking on these things or reading these tweets, it'll build, like you'll see it more on your feed. So whenever I go onto Twitter, some sort of Snyder thing will be supposedly trending, but when you really look into the numbers, it's not that big. At the moment, Darkseid apparently is trending, but it's only 1,000 tweets, which, let's be honest, isn't that huge,
right?
Really. Whereas Beetlejuice 2, which is officially in the works, again talking about sequels, 11,000 tweets. So that is more of a trending thing on Twitter, than anything related to Zack Snyder's Justice League.
My kid doesn't want to hear anything about Beetlejuice 2 until it's out because she's convinced that it's not going to happen. Her heart's been broken too many times.
It's happening.
It's happening. They're in pre-production now, and I bet you they locked a script before the strike.
I think they've even got Jenna Ortega involved. So it's of course this is Tim Burton's new muse. It's like, he always has someone. Oh God.
He's going to be on the set leaning over going, did you ever want to play a chimpanzee? My ex-wife was a great chimpanzee, and I bet you would be a great chimpanzee too.
Oh God! Oh no! Oh no! Don't go there. She looks about 12.
Yeah.
Honestly, we get some very odd messages about Jenna Ortega. And we keep on saying, you do realize you're not talking to Jenna Ortega, you're talking to Small Screen. It's like, and stop sending us this stuff. It's so weird. Ugh. Yeah.
She's the new creep magnet du jour.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, Aubrey Plaza was for a while, and then now it's gone on to Jenna Ortega.
Yeah.
But so that is happening. So Kang is trending, of course. I'm just looking at stuff that's trending.
He was in court today, and his attorneys are saying that this is all racially charged, racially motivated.
They were okay. So they were saying that they have all this evidence that proves that Jonathan Majors did nothing wrong, and they were convinced it wasn't going to go to court. The mere fact that it's gone to court, I'm sorry to say, for me, makes me think that they have something on him, because they wouldn't have taken this to court if they didn't.
Right.
So I'm starting to think that Marvel will have to recast, because this won't go away.
Yeah.
Unfortunately.
Yeah. I think you're right. I think with as much money as he has and what's behind him, that the New York District Attorney wouldn't be doing it just for publicity. They think they can win something here, because it's going to be hard.
It's really difficult to prove that sort of thing in courts. That's the thing, is unless you have, like, I mean, in the UK it happens all the time. These sorts of charges get dropped because the Met or the police or the whoever's prosecuting, they know that they will not be able to prove this in court beyond any reasonable doubt.
Right.
So the mere fact that the district attorney has gone to court with this, to me, makes me think that they have something very solid against him. So, which is, I think he's a very good actor, but it seems as though he's not a very nice person. So maybe the end of his Marvel career.
I would take a look at him, especially a look in Creed, and think about what it takes to look that way.
Yeah.
And wonder if that has something to do with some anger issues.
Yeah. Probably. But it's Kaz says they got major evidence. They probably do.
Kaz will be here all week. Be sure to tip your waitress.
Yeah. This is a good one. Just book him and get one of his variants to play the part. This is probably this is their main defense in court. Well, it wasn't this Jonathan Majors. It was one of his variants. But yeah,
but Marvel's also sitting there going, "We've already established variants. We can have Richard E. Grant play him next time."
Well, I've heard people saying like they want to see. So at the one of the things we didn't cover was Adam Driver has reportedly been cast as Reed Richards,
right,
in the Fantastic Four movie. But one of the other things that has been rumored is that Marvel is looking at John Boyega to take over from Jonathan Majors, which basically means they're just going straight back to their Star Wars actors because it's all Disney. So they're like, which actors have we worked with before that we have actually had? You know, they've said some stuff, but I mean, John Boyega has made it very clear that he wasn't happy with what they did to his character,
right.
in this. But he hasn't got anything like that in his closet. That would have been found out by now,
right?
So, and he's a good actor,
right?
You know, so I don't think that would be a bad shout. Him as Kang.
I don't think at all. I think it'd be good to see him do something like that. I heard they were also doing it, and I can't pronounce his name, but it's Chukwudi Uechi from Peacemaker. I heard they were talking to him as well.
But he's already in Guardians of the Galaxy 3. So he plays
with a mask, right?
No. He plays he what is his so I try and put his name in, it just comes up with Chiwetel Ejiofor. It's a name I can say. What is his name? I had to practice that. This is someone. Okay, so he is in Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, and you see his face.
He's the High Evolutionary.
He's the higher, yes, that's it. He's the High Evolutionary. So I don't think it'll be him because he's already played a pretty big role.
Yeah,
he's actually the main villain of that movie. So I mean, it's going to. I think it's going to end up with Marvel recasting. Yeah, yeah. Rodney says you see the High Evolutionary face in Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. Okay. Yeah, which is because he would have been. I think he would have actually been a very good choice. He's a really good actor.
He's awesome in everything I've ever seen him in. He's very restrained. He's very real. He's very, present. I thought he was great in Peacemaker, but I think Gunn cast really well.
Yeah, I think so. So he's very good at casting. Yeah. That's one thing. He's very good at that. There are rumors that a lot of his Guardians of the Galaxy actors will just come over to the DCU, and one of them is the actress that I can't say her name, Pom.
Oh yeah,
because it's got a lot of Clementif.
Yeah,
Clementif.
Yeah,
I don't know. But there are rumors that she's going to come over and play a role, and then there's the Karen Gillan wants to play Poison Ivy.
Right.
So that might happen. That might not happen. Who knows at this point? Right. So I think that's everything we've gone through. And I've kept you here long enough, Sean. It's very kind of you to join me for such a long time.
I enjoy it. I honestly enjoy it, especially after the past couple of weeks. It's nice to be sitting here talking to you.
Yes, it's nice to be talking to you too. Where can people find you?
I am on. Please follow me on Instagram. I'm Cheap Jack Shakes on Instagram, also on Twitter, and of course Twinight.com. And I think we're going to be releasing Twinight on the internet fairly soon.
Look out for that.
Oh, I sent it to you. I sent it to you.
Yeah, you've sent it to me. Yeah, and there's something that, and I want to watch it on a big screen. So I've got a big screen here, so maybe I can see your face in 70 inches. I don't know how big this screen is, but it's massive.
70 inches in something in centimeters. It's 2 meters.
I have no idea. I can literally say any number and then you add inch to the end and it just goes right over my head. I don't know. But yes, and you can you can follow Small Screen everywhere at Small Screen Co. You can follow me on Twitter. I'm back on Twitter. That was a while ago, but I'm no longer banned. So Elon Musk didn't have a problem with anything I tweeted, apparently. You can find me at EJ Lauder on Twitter. And yeah, you can also get this as a podcast. I will put this out as a podcast later on, and then you can get that podcast wherever you get your podcasts. Small Screen, sorry. What do we call it again? The Small Screen Podcast. How the hell did I forget that? Because we've had so many podcasts over the years.
You're in wine. You're in wine country. That's,
yeah, exactly. I'm in wine country. Yeah, that's it. But yeah, you can find that wherever you get your podcasts. And if you do like it, please give us a 5-star rating. That'd be very, very nice. Thank you, guys. And yes, I was flexing on you, Kaz. It's so stupid. Thank you guys for watching, and we'll see you next week. Thanks, guys. Goodbye.
Take care. Thanks.